All right, so in this part of the tutorial, what I want to do is show you guys how to make materials. So right now we've got objects that are all solid pieces of thick wood, and we're going to apply graphics to it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First thing we're going to do is type materials, enter, and that'll bring the window over here up. If you've got a PC, it might look a little bit different. And then you go to add material. And in this case, I'm going to use a custom material. So under custom here, if I double click on it, or here, let me pull this up. So we have nothing. We have a color. I could change the color, make it simple. I can pick from any number of colors and just make it have a color and apply that material to the object. And if you're not seeing the material show up, you want to make sure you've got it in rendered. Right now I've got it in shaded. Change it to rendered here, or if you've got a PC, click on the drop down menu next to this and you can change it there. So yeah, this is a basic material, right? It just has a color, and you can always change the glossiness of it, change the reflectivity of it. So if there are other objects in its vicinity when it's rendering, like now if I draw a sphere right next to it or something, and I can change the material on the sphere, make a new one. How about that? Custom, and this time I'll just do a color, and I'm going to do orange or something, right? Okay, cool. Apply that to this. Okay. Now when I zoom in here, if I go to render the object, it should have the reflection on it. Let's see. So this little ball up here means render. Depending on your settings, which we'll set up the settings to be a little bit better in the future, but it might take a bit of time. So I'm going to pause. I'll come back and show you what reflectivity does. All right, so now you can see what reflectivity does. I have it cranked way up, so it basically makes the finish of the object like a mirror. Okay? So this is our object. This is our side panel I applied the material to, and you can see the reflection of the material. This is a good time to say, make sure you save your file, right? So let's save this as... So that showed you what reflectivity did. Now what I want to do is show you guys how to make your own textures that have images on them, right? So now if I make another custom material, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to click to assign a color and click to assign a bump map to the objects. And we're going to make them the same thing. I'm going to click here to assign a texture, and it pops up with my pictures. It's the last place I probably did that. So I'm going to now go into my Lightroom catalog and find a photo that I want to use. So let me go to Lightroom Local, and I'll go to Small JPEG, even though these are not small. And go to my portfolio, and maybe I'll put one of my paintings on there. Let's see, I'll do this one. Guess it doesn't matter. This is a nice colorful one though. So I'm going to open this image. It assigns that to the material. And then I'm going to click here and assign that same image with the same size parameters to the bump map. And now the bump map is going to give it texture. Okay? So I've got this material set up right now. Let's give it a shot and see what it looks like. So I'm going to click and drag it onto this back piece here. And you can see because my painting is actually 6 foot 6 inches by 6 foot 6 inches, it's a big one. The height almost fits because we're at 72 inches, which is pretty tall. But not quite 6'5". So you do need to change this size to make sure that it matches. So your file size, the image should be the same size, same orientation as what you're applying it to. Okay, so you can change the tiling to change the size of it. If I double click on this, it'll bring up the settings for this image. And what we've got here is the repeat. I could make it a tile. Instead of just having it one, I could have it make multiples of it. I could repeat it 40 times and have it be like little wallpapers. But then you also have to adjust the bump map to match that. So let's get out of this. Click up here. And then I click on the bump map. And I'll make this also 40. And that way my texture will line up with the object. Okay. And then click on this. And you can make it have more texture or less texture. If I zoom in really close to it, right there, to 100. So it's already at 100, it's at the maximum, but you can feel the texture on it. There is definitely a indication of the texture around the object. Okay, so that's applying textures and tiling. What if I just wanted the front of this to have a image on it? What do I do? So let me go ahead and delete this texture. It'll remove it from the object as well. Say yes. If I want it to just be on this panel all the way top to bottom, I can click on it and explode it. And what that does is it makes every piece of this separate. And then if I group them together, select all of them, and group it together, it should be all one piece still, but still have separate parts. So if I add another custom material, go in here, assign both a bump and a color, and I'm going to do, let me find a long skinny one, this one, open, and do that on this too. Same one, open. Now, when I apply that material to this object, it only goes on the face. Okay? So next, what if you just want to do this top panel one way, this front panel a different way? You know, this you want to split this into different pieces, basically. So let's do that. I'm going to switch this back to shaded for a minute. I'm going to isolate just this panel so I can work on it. I'm going to use both of them because I need to know where that meets up. So I'm going to click on the light bulb, which if you have a PC, it might be over here. Mac, it's up here. Click and hold down and go to isolate objects. Okay. And then I'm going to draw a line from that point there to where it says perpendicular. And then I'm going to click on that line, extrude the curve. It's going the wrong direction. So I can hit D for direction. And I can actually use this as my guide. So if I click here and click on this edge here, it'll go that direction. So now let me bring everything back. Okay, so I want to split this object with this object. So let's do that. Split, enter, select the object you want to split, enter, select the cutting object by clicking, and hit enter. So now that everything is split, we have a piece up here, a piece over here, and our side pieces, of course. So we can group all this back together as one piece. And then we can group the bottom pieces together too. So at this point, I really want to hide everything else I'm working on. So I'm going to click on these side pieces, the shelf, this under piece. I'm just shift clicking to add everything here, and I'll click on the light bulb to hide it. Click on that, hide you. Click on that, hit enter. Click on that, hit enter. And this is getting rid of just basically everything I want to avoid having to look at for the moment. It's all still there, it's just hidden. Okay. So now I've got all of this I want to group together. I want to get rid of this. That's our cutting line. We don't need that anymore. So we have this piece and that piece, and they're grouped together, but they're still separate. Okay, so now I can apply a texture just to that face. Switch back to shaded or rendered, and you can see I've applied a material just to that one face. No, actually I haven't. Let me undo. Let me go ahead and explode this, and then let me try it again. So it should still be grouped, it's just exploded. Huh. Maybe I can't do it if it's grouped. Let me ungroup it. And let me put that on there. So now, yeah, now it's working with just the single face. Okay, so that gives you kind of an idea of how to apply materials to things. Once you get it kind of set up the way you want, shaded the way you want, you can do a rendering of it. You can stage it inside of a room or whatever you want to do. I'm going to actually go ahead and make another custom material and change some things up, get it all set up to render, and then I'll make a room and show you how to light it and stuff like that. So let's do that. Okay, so now I've got this with color on it, and I'm ready to make a more photorealistic rendering to save. So let's do this. We'll go into File, Settings, or Preferences if you have a PC, Settings. And I'm going to set the dimensions for the size of my object to something low, 800 by 600, current viewports, what we're going to render. We're using Rhino Renderer. Solid color in the background. You can change that if you wanted to like a gradient or something. The ground plane is on. Basically, you just want it to look kind of like this for right now. Maybe I'll turn the sun on. Why not? Okay, close that. And then I'm going to go into Render Preview. So I clicked and held, and now I'm in Render Preview. So this should give me a low resolution kind of version of what my render will look like. Okay, so I can see how the lighting is falling and all that kind of stuff, and it looks okay. I might actually want to put a spotlight on it. So let's do spot light, and then I want to set my base of my cone there, and then I'm going to have it go outward, and then which direction depends on which view you're in. So I want it just to come in straight. Okay. And that's going to give the shadow way over there, but that's not going to matter for right now. I'm just trying to illuminate the object. The more you tweak lighting, the better it looks. The same rendering engine can make multiple different types of renders depending on how you tweak lighting and stuff like that.